Ladies and gentlemen, I am the American Spy Fox. Welcome to the channel. You know, it's really strange, it's odd how I always seem to find myself in a position to prove Courtney Love wrong. Now, you may be wondering, hey, Lily Nelson? My puppy, she loves to bark. You may be wondering where I've been for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I have been writing videos. I finally decided that it would be easier to write out entire scripts then record as opposed to freestyling and doing hundreds of takes for one video, which requires hours of editing. I'm becoming a more efficient content creator. So in case you have not listened to the community post, there is one that shows all the videos I've written. I'll be recording those today and tomorrow. But right now, I have to talk about something Courtney Love's talking about and a retweet that Courtney Love posted from Jessica Hopper, none other than the infamous Jessica Hopper, who, by the way, that girl is full of hate toward men. I was reading her tweets and her comments. My God, she describes men like they are the dumbest thing on earth. But she also has a target audience of super Nazi feminists who buy her books. So she's trying to rile them up, and every drop of fuel she puts on that fire, she sells another shitty book. So there's that. Now, getting to the point. I was going to make a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame video, just what I saw and show you guys what I saw and talk about it. But let's face it, those have been made before. No one's really interested. If you wanted to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and see what I saw, you would just do it, right? So I thought maybe I could use my resources from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which I was just at yesterday. As Courtney Love was griping about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I was there. Maybe I can use my resources that I collected while I was in Cleveland to prove Jessica Hopper and Courtney Love wrong, and to show what they're really mad about and how they're using our current social climate to try to get what they want and further their careers. And that's all it really comes down to. So I'll explain throughout the video. First things first, let's go ahead and read the tweets that Courtney has posted, that she has retweeted. We'll see what Jessica had to say. We'll see what Courtney had to say, and then we'll move from there. So I'll just quickly go over what I'm talking about with you. We have here a picture of Courtney Love, who knows who this lady is? One of you might know. Being welcomed to the Royal Music Academy a week ago. We all know she's in UK now. And now that the elites, the higher upper class, have embraced her, she loves UK, right? She used to gripe about their hierarchy, their class structure, whatever you want to call it. We don't understand that in America. You can be born dirt poor here and rise to prominence in America. But in England, it's all about your names and your titles and land. And, you know, that goes back a long way. I'm not saying the UK's doing it wrong. I'm just saying that's their tradition, unlike ours. It goes back to Jessica Hopper. Do they, though? 719 inductees to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, only 61 are women. That's 8.48%. Come on, Rock Hall. It's effing grim, bro. Courtney Love retweets Hopper's tweet, which I find amazing because, you know, they have history, as we all know, and they've never talked about that last day in Seattle when Jessica left abruptly. So here's Courtney's retweet at Jess Hop. Does the math. 37 years in existence, and women make up 8.48% of inductees out of 719. And then she tweets to the Rock Hall. Eligibility is 25 years after first release. Foo Fighters were nominated 4 seconds later, and Carole King 30 years later. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, but did Carole King sell as many records as Foo Fighters? Did they have the longevity that the Foo Fighters have had throughout this 30-something year career? You know, I'm not the biggest Foo Fighters fan in the world either. I was a huge fan of Taylor Hawkins, but I only like Foo Fighters' early stuff. These are guys who've been putting out records for those 30 years. This is a band that can fill Wembley Stadium in a time where we basically only have 2 rock bands. Red Hot Chili Peppers and Foo Fighters. Kids aren't playing music that much anymore. They're turning to auto-tune and making beats with their laptops. Like, it's easy that way. It's hard to learn guitar and write songs. Let the computer do the work for you. This is a band who has endured during a time, you got to give them respect for this, they have endured during a time where no one really cares about rock bands. That's why they got inducted 4 seconds after 25 years was up. In case you don't know what I mean by that, a band has to wait 25 years after their debut album to be eligible to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, to be inducted. We have to account for the numbers. You can't really do the math. Jessica Hopper thinks she's come up with some kind of equation, right? It's this many women compared to this many men. But as I'm sure as any mathematician would tell you, the equation is just not that simple. How many men have tried to get there versus how many women have tried to get there? And what I mean by get there is become a rock star and eventually be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Well, we don't know those numbers, but I think anyone would agree that there's a much more significant amount of men who've tried to be musicians than women. It just does not interest women as much as it does men. Not in the hard rock, heavy rock, grunge, heavy metal genres anyway. If you looked at pop music, I would say that women dominate pop music, but we're talking about rock, right? We don't know the actual numbers, but I myself am one of those people. I never made it there, but I did get to jam in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yesterday, and oh look, I'm jamming with a woman inside of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that Courtney Love says is so misogynist. There are certain employees at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame who are paid to actually play music. And they have a recording studio, a whole public recording studio where anybody can come in and jam with these paid employees. And most of the musicians that were there while I was there were young women. That actually made me very happy, especially when they told me they knew Nirvana. I recall sitting on the drums and this probably on the spectrum girl, maybe it was kind of obvious her mental capacity was limited. She was watching intently and enjoying as we were playing In Bloom and Smells Like Teen Spirit, and she's watching the bass. And so when we ended a song, I asked her, do you play bass? And she's like, no, not really. Wasn't very talkative, very shy. Do you want to play? Do you want to jam with us? Didn't really answer. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to cut to the chase. Do you know any Nirvana? Yes, I know how to play Sliver on the bass. And I'm like, all right. Let her play the bass, right? The only other guy that was there was like, Sliver? I thought that song was called Silver. And me and these girls wrecked on him because Kurt Cobain actually named that song Sliver, knowing that certain people would see it in their mind as Silver. It was Kurt Cobain's way of trolling people, and he successfully trolled yet another. And the girl and I wrecked on him like, Anyway, my whole point is I was just at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and what I saw there is not what Jessica and Courtney are trying to make people believe. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame could hire any number of musicians to play in this recording studio, right? And they predominantly, I would say 90% of the employees were female. What this tells me is they want to encourage young women to pick up instruments. This is completely unlike what Jessica Hopper and Courtney Love are trying to portray them to be. Jessica and Courtney also do not mention the fact that any band can have memorabilia in exhibits. You don't have to be inducted for your band to have an exhibit. And I can tell you from my tour, from my personal experience, I'm pretty sure I took more pictures of old performers' dresses than anything else, like this one right here. And just by looking at the dress, I highly doubt I have to tell you who that dress belonged to. It was about 50-50. There were just as many women, female artists, on display there as males. And that's saying a lot when you consider people like me who wish they could have got there. Back to the mathematical equation, I think we could safely say and all agree that, let's just say this, 10 million dudes have tried to make it compared to, 1 million women in the heavy rock world. Is that something we could all agree on? So when you think about it that way, and you're like, wow, 10 million dudes wanted to be a rock star, only 600 and something of them made it to the Rock Hall of Fame, and then a significantly less amount of females wanted to enter these genres, and there's nearly 100 of them, then the balance doesn't seem so uneven. Doubled with the fact that there are tons of exhibits of female bands on display in the hall. I think what Courtney's really mad about is, you know what I didn't find in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? 6 floors, this huge pyramid-shaped building, 6 floors of displays. I found this. One whole t-shirt. That was it. That's what she's really pissed about. She doesn't want to beg. She wants to bully them into putting her into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She's just upset that Hole has never been nominated. My guess would be Hole's never been nominated because they probably know that other women, at least one deceased woman, is actually responsible for Courtney Love's success. If you're going to make it to the hall, you gotta have talent, and maybe they're aware this lady doesn't really have talent. You do not have to be inducted to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They have memorabilia from bands who are not inducted. Still, the only memorabilia that Courtney Love has ever been asked to donate for an exhibit is that of her late husband, not her own band. And I believe this is why she's on this crusade, once again, using feminism to bully her way into what she wants. And amongst the things that were donated of Cobain's, the oddest thing I came across was in his section. No one else, as many dead rock stars as there are celebrated in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, no one else had this particular item within their exhibit, and that was Kurt Cobain's death certificate. The original one that was apparently auctioned at some point or something. Yes, why would they put that in there? All these other rock stars that are now deceased are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, exhibits of their bands, no death certificates, except for Cobain's. It's like she wants people to see it, to know it's real. I know I couldn't zoom in that great, but you can see it is signed by Nicholas Hartshorn. This is the real deal. And I thought that was so weird. Like, why does everyone need to see this? No one else has their death certificate in the Hall of Fame. And an old acquaintance of Courtney's, one who to this day has never provided a statement, a full statement of what exactly went on and what she heard and what she saw and what she witnessed and why she left Kurt Cobain's house so abruptly. To this day, she's never been asked to write a statement. She's never offered one. She's never written about it, which is really strange for a professional writer to never write about their experience in that house where Kurt Cobain was found, knowing that it would be the best-selling story she ever wrote. She has never written an account or offered one. And this old acquaintance is yet again helping Courtney Love fight a battle against those terrible, terrible boomers and the men who oppress her. Let's go ahead and finish what they're trying to make people believe on Twitter, and then we'll kind of compare it to reality. Courtney's really just saying, why haven't you nominated me? That's her gripe. She's going to use these other names, Tina Turner, Carole King. She even posts this private text message. Why would you post a private text message to somebody that you're trying to make amends with? Can you imagine that occurring today? Me neither. Have fun at the Rock Hall, Dave. Make sure and hold the seats of Tina Turner and Carole King, both of whom were deceased, both who have been eligible for, she put over 40 years, but it was 30 years. This was supposedly a text from Courtney Love to Dave Grohl. During that short period of time that Dave was trying to be civil with her, you all remember Nirvana's induction ceremony back in, I think it was 2014, where Courtney forced that hug on Dave and Dave's whole face turned red.
You know, I have a big speech I'm going to say. We all step hands when we're kids, and this is my family I'm looking at right now, all of you. Brother Michael, Brother Chris, Grandma Wendy, Mr. Grohl.
As well, something I just noticed, if you go back and watch, which you can, that's cell phone footage I showed, but you can watch, I think, the HBO on YouTube for free now, the good recording. Courtney actually turns around and says, "Come on, Dave." Like, she wants Dave to come to the podium, and he refuses to move. That's why she walked to him and forced a hug on him, because she didn't want to feel embarrassed. He was not going to walk up there. Watch it again carefully for yourself, and you'll see what I'm saying.
Mr. Grohl.
I mean, he has good reason to be upset with her. Besides the lawsuits and all the issues behind the scenes, she publicly said that he was a pervy, creepy weirdo toward Frances Bean. She publicly stated that Dave Grohl tried to bang Frances Bean. Frances Bean herself had to come out publicly and say, "My mother's crazy. Dave was never a creep to me. She's lying." And yet Courtney Love fans will still hang on to her every word and believe everything she says, even when her own daughter says she's a pathological liar. You know, while the cameras are on, they're live, there's people watching. Courtney turns around, "Oh, come on, Dave, just give me a hug." And she tries to make it out like he was the one who was perpetuating this beef between them, this grudge. And so Dave reciprocated, and he tried to be friendly with Courtney. And then, of course, as we all know, years later, she would break that bond. She would break his trust once again. And now she's doing things like saving text messages from Dave Grohl, between her and Dave Grohl, private messages from years ago, to try to use to her advantage. Everything this woman does, whoever she talks to, whoever she's connected to, she's just trying to use you to get something she wants, or to prove a point she wants to make, or whatever. You are not safe talking to Courtney Love, being near Courtney Love. You never know what she has planned for you. Do you think Dave Grohl saved that conversation on his phone from 2014? No. But Courtney did. She saved it for a time she might need it. Only a manipulative person would do such a thing. I delete my messages as soon as I'm done with them. I'm not thinking, better save this, it might prove a point someday. Now, there have been times I wish that I had saved messages so I could prove people wrong, but, you know, that's not how I think. When I become friendly with somebody, I'm not thinking, well, later we might be enemies and I might need to use something against them, or I might need to prove a point. Only a sociopath thinks like that. Coincidentally, if you guys remember, I was at the Foo Fighters induction ceremony. I have a video on my channel. Rolling Stone magazine took video clips that I myself had recorded and linked them in articles about the Foo Fighters induction ceremony, which was actually pretty cool, even though I didn't get paid for it. But, you know, it is what it is. The corporate whores do what they will, and they take everybody else's money from them, right? Anyway, so I was at that induction ceremony, and you know Courtney was steaming mad that Dave was being inducted twice, and Hole is older than the Foo Fighters, has never been included. I don't even think they've been nominated to be voted on, to tell you the truth. And now Courtney Love and Jessica Hopper are going back and forth on Twitter. Courtney is using these other women, as she always does when it's convenient for her. She's using other talented female artists' names to complain about what she really wants. And what she really wants is for Hole to be recognized and for Hole to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Courtney Love herself has said things like, "It's just me and Madonna. In the end, I'm the last bitch standing. There are no other female artists." Do you guys remember this in her interviews? She never cared about other female artists. Now that it's become convenient for her to use them, she will, to gripe about what she wants. A narcissistic sociopath does not have the mental capacity to have empathy for others, have compassion for others. She doesn't care if any other women get into the Hall of Fame. She just doesn't want to beg. She doesn't want to say, "Please, please, please, the Royal Music Academy in Britain let me in. I so want to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Would you consider me?" She doesn't want to do that. So she's going to put pressure on them using our social climate to bully them in to allowing her in, to shut her up. Because that's what Courtney has done her whole life. She's bullied people. She's just a schoolyard bully. That's all she is. And no one's ever stood up to her. Oh, wait, I forgot. There were a couple people that stood up to her and they ended up dead. Maybe they should allow her into the Rock Hall of Fame. By the way, I found it funny that she was calling this council, these people who vote on nominees, she called them boomers. And I understand that the word boomers doesn't come from just your age, it comes from a generation. But it's just kind of funny that you're an old person now, too. In Courtney's mind, she still thinks of herself as a teenager. Maybe that's why she still hangs around kids. Or there could be other reasons that we'll talk about in the Jeffrey Epstein video coming up. And that's all it comes down to. Courtney Love doesn't care if Chaka Khan makes it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which Jessica Hopper made a tweet about how Chaka Khan was every bit as good as the Rolling Stones and should have made as much money as them. It's like, well, look at the record sales. Look at the concert attendance. Like, no. It's different. The Rolling Stones had a much more significant impact on pop culture as a whole, not just music, but pop culture, than Chaka Khan did. That's just a fact. Courtney and Jessica are trying to make it a male-female thing, and it's not a male-female thing. It's a which artist had the most impact thing. And we all know, as for Courtney, if she was already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you wouldn't hear a peep out of her. Or, I'm sorry, a tweet out of her. She wouldn't care. Once she's in there, you will never hear Courtney Love act as a champion for other female artists ever again. Once she gets her cake, she doesn't care if anyone else gets a piece. I absolutely disdain how she uses feminism to try to get what she wants. She's always done it. She's always going to do it. Now, as for Jessica Hopper, I understand why she uses it as well. She's a professional writer, and I've read some of, besides the propaganda, you would almost think that she wants to live in a world without men. She's married to a man, she has children, but man, I'd hate to be her husband. He must be one heck of a beta male. You would think that she would just extinguish us, you know, the way she writes. But when she gets on these soapboxes about men, it's like, just so full of aggression and hate, and it's cruel. It's just cruel. Like, you all have dads and grandfathers and brothers and cousins. Not every man in the world is what Jessica Hopper tries to make them out to be, but she understands her target audience. As a writer, if she wants to sell her books, she has to appeal to her target core audience, and her target core audience is a very manipulated crowd of young and older women who have a very large disdain for men. So Jessica adds fuel to that fire. Every drop of fuel she puts on that misogynist fire, she sells another crappy book. So, of course, she's trying to rile them up. One thing I wanted to show you was I called Jessica Hopper out, not for the Kurt Cobain thing, not for any of that. I was reading a lot of her tweets and her comments, and she is so cruel toward men in general. She tells these crazy stories like 5 men surrounded me while I was pregnant and they were going to punch me in the stomach. No, that didn't happen. You would have called the police. You would have filed a police report. We're talking about a baby. Even her husband would have called the police. There's no police report about this. There's no witnesses. It's something she made up. Do you really think someone like Jessica Hopper wouldn't pull out her cell phone and call the police, call for help, yell for help? Like, come on, why would you go online and say things like this if not to make her audience angry? Just like Courtney Love called Dave Grohl a pervy creep who tried to get with her daughter, Frances Bean, Jessica will also make up stories to get young women angry at men in general. The lack of the police report, the lack of any kind of statement coming from her makes these men anonymous. So now you can blame it on every man. It's not an individual. It's just how men behave. It's just how they act. Why does this bother me? Well, geez, because I'm a man and I still live in reality where you can defend yourself. I know that not all men are like that. A lot of you know that not all men are like that because you have relatives who do not behave in such ways. Jessica Hopper and Courtney Love would be the first people to tell you, to correct you, if you ever made a stereotypical statement or a generalization, but then they will go and contradict themselves and make generalized stereotypical statements about men, and everybody's just supposed to be okay with that. Let us not forget that it was Jessica Hopper who heard Kurt's footsteps, who heard Kurt moving about the house and decided that she wasn't going to check on him, supposedly after finding out that he was the S word, and decided to get back in bed because it was too cold while sleeping in the man's house. Let us not forget that Jessica Hopper did nothing to help Kurt Cobain. Anger is a great motivator. It will make you write, it will make you read, it will make you purchase things. You feel like you're fighting something. Anger is a great motivator. Jessica knows that. Had she, I don't know, called the police, then these men wouldn't be nameless, jock, knuckle dragging, whatever she says, right? They're anonymous. So then she can place the hate on all of us, not just the idiotic dudes who supposedly did this, but it's just men in general. It's just their behavior. It's just how they act. It's just how they are. She makes up things like this to spread anger. I finally understand why Jessica Hopper has never stood up and told the full story of the last time she spoke to Cobain and what she heard in that house and what she witnessed, what she saw, what she knows. Jessica has shown her true colors. All I had to do was read her Twitter feed, man. And it was there in black and white. She is just like Courtney. She will manipulate and deceive people to get what she wants, and what she wants is to further her career. She's not that good at it, so she has to use excuses for people who are holding her back. The world is holding her back, and the world is ran by men. So therefore, men are your oppressor. Maybe she's just never considered the fact that she's not that good of a writer. Think about Vicky Ward, the highest paid journalist at Vanity Fair while she was there. You know, I wrote a video about her, right? She was a woman, highest paid journalist at Vanity Fair. Why? Because Vicky Ward was a good writer. Well, where are these same men you're talking about, Jessica? Why aren't they holding Vicky back? Just like Courtney Love, Jessica Hopper entered a profession that she's just not that good at. And that's why she doesn't get very far. When you go outside of that very angry sphere, that echo chamber, her target core audience, no one's ever heard of Jessica Hopper. In fact, my tiny little YouTube channel has more followers than she has. And I don't even consider myself a writer. I just now started actually writing videos. Just like Courtney Love, Jessica Hopper refuses to realize that she's just not that talented. Instead, it's somebody else's fault. Someone is oppressing her. She says these things to get these young girls riled up who think all their problems somehow stem from men, right? And she gets them riled up and they want to buy her book. So it's self-serving to her. She makes more money by being this voice, by feeding into this misplaced hate. My whole point, as we know with Courtney, she's just trying to be manipulative to get what she wants. And I think Courtney taught this to Jessica. I think Jessica took a lesson or two from Courtney Love. I tried to engage with Jessica on Twitter, tried to ask her why she was so full of this anger and hate toward men, and she reported me and got my account locked and all that stuff. Like, my first day on Twitter, I'm banned. I didn't say anything derogatory. I didn't bring up Cobain, none of that. I was pretty tame for being the American Spy Fox. And here's the thing, whenever you encounter someone with logic who is thinking illogically, they will disengage. They will report you to the internet police. They will run back to their echo chamber to get some reinforcements to justify their illogical behavior. Or it could have been one of her fans, but my point to her was, you're doing the same thing. These stupid men who talk so poorly about women just because, women don't like them or they're not attractive or they can't get the life they want, so they want to blame it on women. She's doing the same thing. She's not where she thought she would be in her career either. So it's got to be someone else's fault. It can't be my fault. I've worked hard. Who is blocking me from receiving the rewards that I so justly deserve? That's what I hear when I see Jessica Hopper on these rants. Courtney and Jessica both want you to believe that their fight is for women, but what are they? They're women. And they're not just women, they're women with something to sell to you. They both live beyond their means. They both think that they're greater than what they are. I'm surprised they've both made it as far as they have. If you think for 1 second that Jessica Hopper and Courtney Love have never sat down with friends and said, how can we stir people up? How can we sell more records? How can we sell more books? Well, anger is a great motivator. And you see a lot of people online using anger without any logic or any evidence or any proof, getting people stirred up to motivate people to buy their product. When I think about those women, I'm not thinking in terms of woman, man, or whatever. That thought doesn't even really cross the mind. They're the ones pushing that agenda. They're the ones wanting you to get angry over the debate. What I think about when I think of Courtney Love and Jessica Hopper are toxic people.